capture that I am recording so that everybody's going to get that little button here asking if that's okay. And it should take us to our screen. Not sure how many of you remember what the content is today, but it really is about marketing. And there we go. There's a lot about marketing. You should just have one slide. Is that correct? Okay. Good, good,
Mhm.
good.
Yep, it's all good.
Um, one of the intimidating things about having two slides is you get to see, as you guys know, as presenters, you get to see how many slides I have in this deck. And even though it says 50 slides, I am not trying to do 50 slides in the next 60 minutes. However, it is a marketing day. If we went back to um, my my model for business development, we talked last week about what were your goals and to establish a plan. And I think everybody was able to write down what their goal was. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone needs to revisit that right now, because I do want to make sure everybody has. Let me see here. Trying to knock everything out. That everyone has some specific goals and what does it take to do it. So with this, we talked about setting goals. I made the illusion that you should all be over 200,000 in your pursuit of growing your business. Um, um, I made a snotty comment that basically said if you're not doing a quarter of a million, you're pretty much have a hobby of a business as opposed to wanting to drive your business to the next level. And I say it as a snotty comment because there's a lot of people who are very comfortable just doing 100,000, 125, and that takes work as well. But not to the magnitude that I'm going to try to push everybody on this call to. So we're going to try to raise that bar a little bit. So today we're really talking about designing a magic marketing mix. We're going to talk about marketing. I have some slides over and beyond the stuff that I've sent you. There's two slides that I'm going to ask, two times I'm going to ask you to um, fill out and or do homework. And my what I wanted to throw out at you is once we do that, let Liz back in. Once we do that, if you fill out those two things and send them to me, I will send you this entire deck that I'm working on. So you'll have all the information that we cover on this list. I just want to make sure everybody's moving forward in the same direction. If you have a question as we're going through, let me know and we'll play with it. Questions so far? Good, good. We're rocking and rolling. So let's go. Some of you are in Costa Rica, some of you were not. Some of you um, may have seen this model. I do not think I got to this model last week. But basically, this is a business model for being in the speaking business, being in the consulting slash training business. I take that model, and it basically has five components. It says newsletter and community. It's not newsletter.com, but it's how do we reach our community is the main question there. And I'm going to touch on that as I go through this marketing today. Platform discovery, you become an expert. Um, as you become that expert, your footprint, your brand becomes a lot more um, important and sellable. The speaking, not only do we speak, but we should have products. If you are taking notes on that, you will write down about 20% of our speaking fee we should be covering with products as well. Um, So if in fact we made 100,000 a year, I'm suggesting with extra products, that's another 20%. So that should get you to 120, just if in fact we're using the proper strategy to sell books, sell programs, sell additional training and consulting. The next one is a membership site. If in fact you want a group of people to follow you um, and or continually get your information, membership sites help. I used to have a membership site where I would have a couple of hundred people would get information on a monthly basis where I constantly was putting new content in there to help them grow their business. So it would go. Wow, that was about 12, 15 years ago. And if I recall, I was charging like 197 a month for people to do that. I loved it. And it was lucrative. What I did not like was virtually no people contact. They go in, they get their information. My computer was on the ready and it was constantly moving through that. So, the fact that there's no interaction makes it harder for people to stay engaged. Um, and then this BC event is boot camp event that you have. So we take that and we shift it to the next level. So my business model looks something like this: about 5,000 in a community that I focus on. Can someone tell me if we covered this last week? Okay, good.
No, we didn't.
Uh, okay, so I have about 5,000. I try to do 50 to 90 engagements a year. Um, if I get to where I'm doing more than 90 engagements, tell me what I do. What do you think I would do?
Raise your rate.
You- Thanks, Teresa. That's exactly what I would do because I don't want to do more than 50. And honestly, hit in the middle there, say around 70 a year. And if I'm doing more than 70, it's time to raise the rate, speak less for the same amount, and increase that through the speaking and products, etc. On my, I have about 100 people who will be on a membership site and are constantly getting content from me. And then a boot camp, do twice a year, a boot camp with about 25 to 30 people coming in and actually going through a 3 day boot camp. I want to move that up to, staying on that line, move that up to 250 at an event. Well, I'm going to start up the top here. At one time, I wanted to get 50,000 people. Um, I have totally changed that. A lot of us want to grow to have a lot of people follow us. I'd rather bring that thing down to about 1,000 really good prospects, 1,000 people who are in my sweet spot and get to know them and build a relationship with them so that they know who I am, I know who they are, and they can constantly see through my newsletter or in community to up the stakes as I go through the course of the year. I'm going to pause for a second. And the newsletter community, since I did not cover this last time, I am basically saying each of us have to have some methodology of letting the rest of the world know who we are and what we do. Newsletter is just one of several ways of doing that. Can you guys share with me ways that you can do that? Who wants, and some of you may be doing it already. So just share with me, how do you reach out to your community and how often?
Social media every day. Um, Podcasts,
You're on social
phone-
media every day, Liz?
telephone calls. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And are you going out to which outlets? Is it
So
LinkedIn?
forever I was always on Facebook. However, in 2025, I made a purposeful decision to go back on LinkedIn, which is where I should have been all these years.
Right. For sure. The rule of thumb on that is from social media, if you're going B to C, business to consumer, that's a Facebook thing where an individual would buy you more. But if you're going business to business, you want to be more on LinkedIn. Something that you would want to use to supplement that would be your YouTubes and the various videos that you have doing what you do. I have that scheduled here a little bit later today on talking about our not only our YouTube, but what our demo videos need to look like and what we actually make available to our clients. Anyone else? What else are we doing? Carol?
I do a couple of things, but one of them is around articles. And so whenever I work with an association, I want to write an article either before or as a follow-up afterwards. So even the people who missed me at that meeting will get information. I also have a strategy around articles, and I call them articles on my website as opposed to a newsletter. Or anything else. And I say right on there that you are open to taking these and using them in your monthly safety meetings so that I'm giving them permission to share it with everybody.
Going to come back to that in a little bit as well, Carol. But I like the fact that you're reaching out to your entire community. When you do an article, is it just for the association you're speaking to, or does it go out to your whole community?
No, it doesn't go out to my whole community because I've been very, very bad at building my community. I had it at one point, it kind of collapsed, and I've never rebuilt it.
So I'm going to
Although
suggest
I
for all
will
of us
say though, any clients that I've worked with in the last year or so, they get a follow-up article on a monthly basis.
okay,
But that's limited to the clients I've already worked with, not to open to new clients.
awesome. Let me know as we go through the day, or if there's a change in your methodology or at least understanding through the marketing we talk about. Jenny and Teresa, go Jen.
It's Jenny. I have a newsletter. It goes out to about 1,000 people a month,
Okay,
and I do post on all platforms, but it's primarily, well, they all kind of get posts, but LinkedIn.
okay,
What I'm not good at doing is like going back onto social media and commenting to kind
okay.
of create more, to do something more with that. And then at some stage today, what I'd love to do is talk about like on LinkedIn, I've got maybe like 7,000 plus followers or connections. And I've just got another VA that I've hired. And one of my marketing strategies for February I really want some direction on how to reconnect with all those people. So at some stage, I just want to put that in the parking lot if we can come back to that.
Like you want to do, you're working on that pretty soon then.
Yeah.
Um, why don't you drop me an email and we'll schedule some time this week
Oh,
and give you a
perfect. I love that
strategy on
you
that.
said. Okay,
I'm
thank you.
sorry.
I will do that.
Okay, perfect. Teresa, you were getting ready to say something and I cut you off.
That's okay. I would actually like to be on that call with Jenny because that is one of my problem issues too that I'm looking to overcome. So instead of you doing two separate calls, if just tell me when it is, if you don't mind me joining, I'll join in.
Okay.
For me, I'm really good with writing. I don't have a problem being seen, but I do not like social media. So I'm actually hiring someone to manage my social media for me.
Okay.
It's, I have like the content, I have all of that, but I I haven't found a strategy that really works for me. And I'm also not good with community. That I feel like it just drags me down trying to manage a community. But newsletters, articles, all of that can totally do. I'm totally good with like taking my video from podcasts or from speaking events and putting that out in social media. But just that daily drip of social media drives me nuts. But that's currently what I'm doing.
Okay. By the way, you mentioned a couple of ways I would like you guys to look at your community, and one of which is podcasting. Um, it makes good sense to try to get on. Those of you who aren't doing podcasts, do one every other week. But if you're doing podcasts and you have done, and you have a good understanding of what your expertise is, try to put in your marketing mix to reach out once a week to get on a podcast and trying to do one a week. And with that, we'll talk about that later, but you want to have some type of a lead gen so that you can capture lead by giving things away. And that lead gen really fosters your community. So I have deeper in this handout some statistics about sending things out and where do we get our customers from. One of which is 80% of the count has to do with people we meet. But here's a very strange one. 90% of your new clients over the next 2 to 3 years are people you have never met. So they need a better education of who you are and what you do. So having some vehicle so that your existing clients and potential clients are constantly getting a better understanding of who you are and what you do. Teresa, I see your hand up.
Just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Would, as far as lead gen goes, is something like a quiz or an ebook a better lead gen, or do you have any recommendations on what is a good lead gen to
we're going to really talk about a lot of lead gen, and I'm gonna just make a note for myself. But there's several things depending on what you're trying to do and who your audience is, and if it's part of your sweet spot.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
quizzes, assessments work well. A free, let's say that you focus on burnout and you're helping people have a better understanding of burnout. And it's like, I have a quick assessment so that you can actually determine whether or not you need additional help or to help you focus on what areas to minimize the burnout that you're having. I have a client who does that, and that works very well. What is it? There's a software program that you can do now. So as you do podcasts, your presentation, it helps you capture leads. It helps you do things. I'll share with you one of the ones that my friend in Colorado does. And Ruby, you guys probably know Ruby, prior president for NSA. One of the things, I'm not sure if you know what her expertise is, but she does sport raving fans getting, and most of her clients, I remember she and I had a long conversation about a mutual client. I lived in San Antonio. I love the Spurs, which is the professional NBA team. And that was one of her clients, and several of the um, professional teams are. She went to one, she did a presentation for some general managers for the NFL and shared with them some specific things, gave them some take homes, and promised to do some assessments for them. But more importantly, she did an evaluation after each program. My confession is I quit doing evaluations some 20 years ago. It's like I know when I do my program whether I did a good job or I did a bad job. But if you do your evaluations like Ruby, where it goes through and assess what happens, which one of these tools will you put into place? What other challenges is your company having? And last but not least, if in fact you only had one seminar or one educational program for your company and your division, which one would be most helpful? And have them circle that. And then they would say, is it okay if I circle back to you and give you feedback and we can have a conversation on it? Great way of staying in touch with it. And so she uses her evaluation on every program, and it has created, if you don't know her, she has on her customer service. Her testimony is one of the only 7-star hotels in the world out of Dubai. She does magnificent work, but that's to answer that question. That's kind of a great lead gen that she does. That said, let me go ahead and move along. I'm trying to talk less. I've gotten only through 6 slides. Good job, Ed. Let's keep it going. This was my model that I shared with you once again. I'm going to bypass that. You have on a handout that I sent out this here. When we got together in Costa Rica, or some of you have seen my actual presentation, it's going to be my next slide. But as we look at this slide, I'm not even going to go through that slide. I'm going to go straight to the next one because it's going to be easier for you. This particular slide is, who do you serve? Who are your ideal clients? Where do you serve? So at 12 o'clock, I have simple. At 3 o'clock, it's complex. 6 o'clock, it's complicated. 9 o'clock, clients who are in total chaos and are totally screwed up. And then you have clients who are trying to get back to solving their issues so that they can get back to how they do business on a normal basis. Start up here at between simple and complex. If the product or service that you're providing is off the shelf, it falls into the simple or complex. I'll just share with you a couple of conversations I've had in the last week. Communication, do you talk on communication? Do you do this? Or do you do leadership? And in NSA or CAPS, there are well over 50% of the people who do communication and or leadership. It's almost a off-the-shelf type of a product, and a lot of people are doing it. So that's one, off the shelf. But let's say we're between complex and complicated, where you work for a niche. You not only do leadership and communication, but you do that specifically for, as I mentioned with Ruby, for sporting teams, or you do it specifically for healthcare or whatever your market is. To refresh your memory, mine is the ABCs. Attorneys, bankers, and CPAs. That's where I spend 90% of my time, in that space. So that's a boutique targeted solution provider for those ABCs. So I deal with a lot of between complex and complicated issues, but specifically for that market. Do I do communication? Absolutely. Do I do leadership development? Absolutely. But primarily for professional service groups. Does that make sense? Are we good? Okay. Now, as I go from complicated to chaos, typically a client in that space is going to be looking for a thought leader who can come in, do some diagnostics, analyze it, size up, and take you through some transformation to get you out of the problem that you're in. And last but not least, when we have clients who are in total chaos, they get a hired gun or a surgeon who will come in and actually try to solve that problem and move towards getting you out of that chaos towards simplicity again. So I've got 4 quadrants there. I'm going to give you another analysis for it. All of us, if you're over age 40, you should be getting a physical at least once a year. That meaning you have to go to a doctor and go through all that stuff. And typically you can just go to any general practitioner. Would you agree that, I'm going to pause for a second. Let's look at this slide. You see how the connecting lines differ from one to another? What's your thought on why those lines connect like they do? Anyone?
There's more work available as it gets thicker.
I'm sorry?
There's more work available as it gets thicker.
More work is available. Okay.
I think
So,
more of your experience or your presence in it. We're off the
okay.
shelf, it's just a product, but as you get to hired gun, that's you working kind of like customized solutions.
Okay. Okay. So it requires more of your time. Excellent. Anyone else?
It requires expertise.
It requires expertise. Um, excellent. We're good. So here's the magic. It's the value that is perceived by the customer. I have small value if you're taking something off the shelf. I have small value if in fact it's a communication off the shelf and anyone can take it or it's readable, etc. But if it's something geared towards healthcare, I have more value in it just because it's to my targeted market. And if I have a specific problem and you're going to use that, um, and you go through an interviewing and a deeper analysis, I'm going to feel better about you being the thought leader who can take me and solve my problems. So when I go to I'm gonna go back to my healthcare, my doctor thing. A general practitioner, anyone can come in and do your physical. But if they find a lump or a spot on your skin and you have to go to a dermatologist, now you've just gone from off the shelf to a targeted solution provider. And that targeted solution provider is going to do some more diagnostics on that spot or that lump or whatever so that you can get a clean bill of health or not. Let's say, heaven forbid, you don't get a clean bill of health, and they say that it may be cancerous. And if in fact that is, they will recommend an oncologist. So you just went from a targeted solution provider to a thought leader in the cancer space, which will be in obviously this fuchsia area. Now I've got a thought leader who's going to do some heavy diagnostics, find out what my problem is, and help me go through what will it take to transform my body back to where I would like it to be. And if that oncologist says, again, heaven forbid this happens, I've dealt with it too many times, but they go through the analysis and says you're in stage 4 and you're going to have surgery to have this removed. Then you go into the fourth quadrant where you have a hired gun, a surgeon comes in to remove that cancer so that you can get back to your normal life. Back to the lines. What's the difference in lines in terms of value? Because of time, I'm going to do this rapidly. That small line off the shelf, you have to have a low price point for them to just take off. And off the shelf, they're just looking for something quick and moving. If you're a targeted solution, they're willing to pay. By the way, the physio, a general practitioner, may be 50, 75, less than $100. But then you get into a targeted solution provider who knows your area, that can triple in price just because that dermatologist is going to be more than $75. And then by the time you get to the oncologist, this is where it really hits home for each and every one of us. When it gets to that thought leader who is actually going to a client and dealing with a complicated issue, the client totally disregards price. It's like, how much value are you bringing to me? And because your value is so high, tell me what you have to do to fix this. And then if I have to have a hired gun or a surgeon, you don't say, how much is it going to cost me? You say, how long is it going to take and how fast can you do it? So they're willing to pay us more. So from a speaker consulting standpoint, I live in the bottom two quadrants. I live in the targeted solution provider. Some of my clients may have a complicated issue where I have to go in and do some heavy diagnostics and find out what the problem is. For instance, I have no one who wants to step up and be a leader in this organization, and we have several people who want to retire. Can you help develop leaders in my organization so that those who are ready for retirement can position themselves to slip out and have some level of succession plan. That's where I deal a lot of my time in the thought leadership. Now, let me just give you a misgiving about the hired gun. I did a lot of work for the internal audit world at one point in time. A group of people that I love as a people, but it's not really my ideal client. Why? I like clients who are looking for building leaders and trying to build revenue. Internal auditors are not trying to build revenue. They're just trying to find out where are the problems and move forward. But I did a lot of work in that space such that the president of the internal audit world asked me to come and be one of his senior vice presidents. And this was around 2000. And I went through argument after argument of why I would not come and work strictly for him. And he says, well, what do you do all month? And I said, I speak about 8 to 12 times a month. He goes, and what are you doing the other 10 or 12 days? And I said, the honest thing is looking for those speaking engagements so that I can continue to work. He goes, what if I pay you X amount every day that you're not playing? And he was going to pay me in excess of $1,500 for every day I was not speaking. So I said, let's give it a shot and we'll do that for 6 months and see if that works. So, and I averaged around 10 days that a month that I wasn't speaking, that I worked for him. Within 6 months, living in that hired gun, anybody want to take a guess of what happened?
Your focus went there and you spent more time there?
I totally spent a lot more time there, and that ended up meaning that my market, my community totally died. Because I spent too much time in the hired gun, after six something has popped in my office here. Anyway, after 6 months, my regular business was gone, and I really had to start over again. And it was coincidentally the same time 9/11 happened. So right after 9/11, I'm rebuilding my business going into October of that year. So where am I saying here? I live in the bottom two quadrants. My niche, as well as trying to get as much information to be a thought leader in that space for that niche so I can handle most of the problems there. Most of the people looking for off-the-shelf things, which I don't feel as though I can penetrate deeply in, I'm going to say no, because it's not giving me the amount of runway that I need to be happy and to satisfy what my goals are. If you're doing it right, I know my long-term goal is to have about 5 to 10 people, clients, corporations who are paying me anywhere from 10 to 15,000 a month on an ongoing basis. And now I'm managing 5 clients, but it may be a 1 year long contract, and it will include speaking, consulting, coaching, assessments, etc. Questions?
I love that model, Ed.
Thank you. It's very close to where you are right now, Jen.
Love it.
Go ahead, Teresa.
So I'm seeing this model, which I too love this model, and I think that it's very applicable to a few different ways that I'm looking at my business. So I just wanted to run through those and see if I'm on the right track. So I see this, number one, as my own business development. Like I could have a product that, brings people in off the shelf and then, work them as my community and then be able to go through, the different stages. So that's one way I can see it. And the other way is in a business opportunity. So if I'm in the boutique and thought leader, maybe there are people that work with lower price points and larger groups of people off the shelf that I could partner with that could feed me people that that would be kind of off the shelf. But my question with that is, number one, if there are other people who are generating a lot of income by not providing personalized service, would they be even willing to kind of feed in those off the shelf people if I gave them some sort of incentive? Or are those people, since there's no touching, with the clients in that part, is that just kind of not even worthwhile for me to focus on? Does that make sense?
And initially, I'm going to say two things. Do I have some off-the-shelf products? Absolutely. And I can do an off-the-shelf product. However, if I do not see a runway where that can, last week I talked about ducks, deers, and dinosaurs. Do you guys remember
Yep.
that? Ducks are small clients. So I will take a off-the-shelf product to a duck type client, but that client has to have the potential to turn into a deer or a dinosaur. If they're so small that it's only a one time and there's a nice thing, I'm probably going to say no because it's not building my business.
Gotcha.
And when
And that's
we
what
have one-on-one, and even though I have scheduled most of you to have one-on-one in week 8, we're going to start doing some one-on-ones starting next week because some of the questions you're asking are things that need to be addressed now versus waiting several weeks to hit it.
great. Thank you.
You with me? Okay.
Yep.
Any questions before I go to the next slide? Oh, I've got so many devices here, and none of them are telling me what time it is. Hold on a second. Ooh, okay. Got it. Time to go. Here we go. Let's go to this next slide. There's the huge marketing disconnect. We do so much to let people know who we are. I alluded to there's several hats we have to wear as um, an entrepreneur in our business. Let's just jot down some of them. I don't have them written here, but one of those hats is selling, of course. Another hat is marketing, and they're two separate hats. Another one is just running the operation, taking care of administrative, and let's throw in managing your people. If in fact you have other people, what would be another one? Is there any other one that I should add in there? When I say throw another one for your people, put that under research because sometimes you need some people to do research to find out what are the things that are going on in that industry that you can address and really hit a home run with them. So a lot of people will do branding and advertising. And as we wear all those hats, what we have to do is recognize marketing is basically letting people know what we do. Sales is saying, okay, you know what I do. Let's do a deep dive to find out if my solution is a solution to the problem you have. And while a lot of people go about marketing different ways, we're going to share with you 7 things that you really need to consider when you're actually marketing. And it talks down here about the first 4: interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. I'll give you some detail on each of those here in a second. The marketing disconnect is people ask, what are you doing? You'll hear a lot of jargon as, well, we have the large selection, we're the most professional, we're fast, we're convenient, so on and so forth. And in marketing and advertising, there's so much jargon, our consumers get confused. So if I shifted away from that, here's a test to see if we're using too much jargon. If what some of the things you say, they can say, I use this one says, well, I would hope so. I call it the whoopie-doo factor. It's like whoopie-doo. It's like everybody who does that shit should be able to do that. When you make a claim, ask yourself immediately, in the work that I do, Should I be helping people in that fashion? And if so, here's an example of a consulting company. Our training leads to change. We increase productivity, performance, and profit in our company. Well, I would hope so. Because anytime somebody hires a consultant, that's what they're hoping for, right? So we have to have a little bit more uniqueness of what we're bringing to the table to satisfy some of their challenges. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. So these four things really help. Realize people are not sitting around waiting for you to interrupt their world to go through what you do. So the four of them are interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. You want to get qualified prospects to pay attention to what you're bringing to the table. You want to then engage them in terms of how do you perform, how you do it, etc. Then you educate them in some fashion how this is different than maybe something they've gone through in the past, and then make them a low grade offer to move forward. Even with a little bit of time, I'm going to throw this little story out to you guys. One of the things that most of you know that I am the father of three sons. I used to call them Monster One, Monster Two, and Monster Three, but I had three sons, and when they were young, still in high school and or college, we liked to play basketball together. But one of the other things we did was we like to watch sporting events, like what's coming up soon and next week, where you have the Super Bowl. This was one of my Super Bowl moments. It was like um, at right after New Year's, I was starting to ask them, okay, we're going to have a special get together for our Super Bowl, and I'm inviting my kids, and I'm starting to see that they're trying to hem haw away from not being present at my Super Bowl party. So I asked them why, and they just tried to break my heart. They did a good job. They said, Pops, your televisions are like huge. They still have tubes behind them. It's not high def. And I said, we've got three of them. They're big. Da, da. I don't care how many you have. They're horrible. So after I gathered my heart, I went to Best Buy and I'm looking around at new televisions because I want to get my kids coming over there. And I asked the lady who was showing me those things, and I interrupted, and she basically said, "Well, tell me what you're looking for, and what do you do?" I was told in the story I just shared with you, and she goes, "Well, they're right in terms of quality." She goes, "But something you want to consider as well." And by the way, she went to the engage and educate model. She goes, someone like you, especially someone who teaches other people, you want a smart television that has more potential for not only watching sporting events, but you can use this to demonstrate your products, your service. You can do PowerPoint for it. It will allow you to transform several of your presentations so you can do them through your television, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it was like, I didn't know that. And lo and behold, about a month and a half later, while I'm getting ready for the Super Bowl, I found it in myself to go ahead and give away the three televisions that I had. And I went and I was ready to buy two smart televisions. And I went back to that lady who had educated me and took the time to walk me through it. And one of her offers was, you may not be ready now, but when you are, give me a call. I'll come in and evaluate your office and your home and tell you the best ones that will work for you. And it was like, called her up. She came in. She um, took me from three to two and said that if in fact you use these two at this size, I think you'll be able to cover everything you need. And that coupled with your computer, it will also enhance your business. And I went on and made that service. So when we're actually starting to market ourselves, we need to interrupt, and I put in here, getting qualified prospects to pay attention to your marketing. Typically, it says often accomplished by affecting the prospects emotionally. If you can find out what is emotionally challenging for them, typically that's a hot button. You're looking for your client's hot buttons. And if we can find out what are their concerns, um, too much turnover, too many challenges in this regard. We have people who are not ready to step up to the next level. I'm thinking of about a client I have in California now. We have people who are stepping up. All of our growth is coming by referral, and we don't have an active marketing or sales process to bring clients in. Yet, the funny thing is, yet we still brought in 2 million last year. And that took us from 15 million to 17 million, but we don't have a systematic way of bringing in business. Totally got what they were saying, so it allowed me to move forward. So engage, make some promise, get some information. Based on that, I go through and I do an analysis, and then I educate them on what could work better for them. And then last but not least, I offer, I say, hey, I'm just kind of gearing this up so that you understand what could be possible and how it could work out better for you and your retiring partners to make it work well for you. Interrupt, engage, educate, and then make an offer. While we may not use those words in the past, how many of you kind of walk down that path when you're working with clients and potential clients? So that I'm seeing heads nod, so it seems as though you're pretty comfortable with what I just went through. Anybody have any challenges with that? Then we're all good. So I'm going to keep us moving here. So, and I said there's 7. So the marketing disconnect, and I love this. If you want to know why Jane Doe buys, if any of you are in sales, you may have heard this before. But if you want to know why Jane Doe buys what Jane Doe buys, you've got to see the world through Jane Doe's eyes. Another um, corollary to that is if you want to know what Jane Doe sees, you better first understand how Jane Doe's brain works and how it processes information and makes decisions. To understand this process, you have to know 3 key concepts. I gave you the first 4, the next 3 are going to come around. These 3 concepts really help people understand why people make decisions like they do. And rather than belabor the point, the 3 concepts is people go through life in downtime, uptime, and then they have the reticular activating system. Those are the 3: downtime, uptime, and the reticular activating system. Let's talk about downtime. How many of you have ever walked into a room and when you got there, you can't remember what the heck you went there for? And it's worse if you wake up in the middle of the night and go into a room and it's like you have no idea what you're trying to find and your brain can just go elsewhere. In reality, we kind of do that. Our brains are in this hypnotic state where we're not really focused on various things. We're typically not focused on advertising. So we're in that downtime where we're not really looking for things. And I put here in marketing terms, people see and hear with their eyes and ears, but they don't do that at a conscious level. We just kind of go through that process. I remember speaking in Las Vegas, not this past December, a year ago, and I shared that a lot of clients are having difficulty keeping talent. They're losing talent, especially as the next set of generations are coming in, and they're having trouble of trying to recruit new clients. And it's like, well, let me tell you one of the reasons. If you do not have a benefit like leadership development or something to help them see beyond today that you're willing to help work on their career and help them focus on the next level. It's going to be hard for them to say yes to you because you're not focused on them. Another thing is if you're not focused on the community and how your company helps the community and its employees. All of those things I shared in probably the first half an hour of this keynote I was doing on leadership. And a guy literally said in the middle, "You can stop now. You've paid for yourself. I knew I had a problem, and you have just shared that we have nothing to develop people after they come into work. We try to give them other spaces where they can go, but we do not do anything consistently." And he said, if we could take time to, if you can tell me what some solutions to that is, it would be worth its weight in gold. And he set up an appointment with us, and I was able to talk to him about it and move forward. I'm going to pause here for a second. Typically, most speakers, and this is not to be a negative against speakers, but most speakers will set up a keynote to go and talk to that group. I wanted to find out what are all the problems they had. So it went beyond a keynote to a six-figure contract that we did in 2024 that included speaking to his people 2 or 3 times a month, either virtually or face to face, educating them on all the things that they needed help in. So he went from downtime to uptime. Uptime is when your brain state is in complete alertiveness and you're really ready to engage. When this gentleman came to the conference, he's coming with his problem in his head and saying, what can the speakers tell me about my problem so I can go back and fix it? You with me? So, yeah, um, interrupt, engage, educate, and make an offer. But then try to get people in that out of downtime to focus on the problems that you can solve. Take it up to uptime. Uptime is when you're totally alert. I asked if you wake up in the middle of your sleep and go into a room and forget what you got there for, let me give you another sleep scenario. What if some loud noise disturbs you while you're sleeping? You wake up and you go down there totally alert, looking to destroy whatever made that noise, or to actually come up with what can you do to make sure nothing broke, nothing's going wrong, make sure that all that in your mind gets out of your mind so that you can go back to sleep. It's not a drowsy moment. It's a very alert moment. In marketing terms, prospects constantly notices your ads or marketing, and they're open to your suggestions and solutions because you've spoken straight to their problem. So I think I have 2 or 3 of you who really like to write. In your writing, I hope you're suggesting what problems they have or problems that you've solved in the past, and this is a solution that you could bring. Is that making sense? Good, good, good. I'm gonna keep shooting, and let's talk about the last thing. It's called a reticular activating system. A reticular activation system is the part of your brain that is constantly in the lookout for solutions to the problem that your mind has in its not only conscious mind, but also subconscious mind. Have you ever decided that you wanted to start buying a new car and you had a particular car that you liked? You know, there's, you know, the my my girlfriend and I were driving around and we ran into several Jeeps. That was when the Jeeps were first coming out. And every time we turned around, one of those Jeeps were like following us. And it was like, she said she hated those Jeeps, but every time we turned around, those Jeeps were there. And all of a sudden they were in our mind so that every time she turned around, she saw those Jeeps. Yeah, I know eventually those Jeeps were no longer very important. But when your subconscious mind has them in the back of your mind, They those things just show up for you with almost everything you do. All right, let me put the rest of them. What happens is your mind has in it things that are familiar, things that are unusual, or things that may be problematic. And those are the things that we're trying to find out about our clients. If we're building relationships, we're doing our marketing, and we're talking about things that they're familiar with, give it a different slant and try to solve the problems that they're going through. All of those things are considered activators. So our reticular activation system is trying to connect to things that they're going through with solutions we can bring to the table. How many of you know the whole FedEx logo issue? Just raise your hand if you're familiar with the subconscious message generated by a FedEx machine. And it's all around that arrow right there. It's like moving it in a direction. That arrow is one of their key points of subliminally trying to get us to do work with them. They've been very successful with that little arrow, but some people say, "Oh, does it really work? Does it not?" I don't know, but they are everywhere anymore. I think it
That is
does
so
work.
funny. I've never seen that arrow until right now. How did I? Awesome.
But your mind has, Jen.
Subliminal messages are extremely powerful.
It,
Great way to control us.
it really is. So you have to be conscious of it. So that's some marketing things I wanted to share with you. Let me continue on. Everybody understands those seven? Kind of went through them fast. When you'll get this handout that I have here. Now I'm going to go into some of the marketing that I would like you to be doing. My marketing mix is 80/20 times 16 times m to the third power. I am mathematics and I'm the accountant. Remember the former accountant. So I use math on a lot of things. Let's first of all look at that 80/20 rule. 80% of your income will come from 20% of your customers. 80% of your results will come from 20% of your efforts, I'm sorry. And 80% of your potential customers will come from 20% of the people that you know or who knows you. And the other one, 90% of your future customers will be from people that you have not met yet. So that's why we have to constantly market and identify who is our ideal marketing target. My marketing mix, my 80/20 is represented here below. I have 25 of my top advocates. Advocates are people who know what you do. They will do testimonies for you. In my office, we don't call them advocates, we call them advocates, people who love Ed. So these are people on my, it's like people who have referred clients, people who are clients, people who can tell my story almost as well as I can. At least they can tell how I've helped them. Those are my top advocates. Also, 25 of my top customers or prior customers, 25 associations in my sweet spot. So all 25 of them are pretty much connected to the ABCs, attorneys, bankers, or CPAs, or credit unions of my top associations. I do have a targeted group. If there's ever a client that I say I should be doing more work with them, I will have that as a targeted group that over the next 6 months, I'm going to be sending them information, trying to get a bite for them to want me to do work for them. Cool beans. Any questions on that? Let's keep it rolling then. Strategies for your 80/20, they can come from prior customers, existing customers, advocates or referrals, specific associations, industry related information or events. There's a lady here who does a lot on networking and making drastic steps for change. And she had a group of people come in from Singapore and their Chamber of Commerce. And she would have these events about making drastic steps and making drastic connections. And I went there, and Singapore wanted me to go there. And that's great idea. And I think I could have fostered up some business. I have a new philosophy now. One of the people in my mastermind said, Ed, within 100 miles of Houston, you can find all the business you need to reach any target you want. You don't have to go around the world. And in my younger day, I used to love traveling. My information says I've spoken at 42 different countries around the world. It's probably closer to 45 or 48, but I don't go to as many of them as I used to. Italy is one of the ones that I really love going to. I did some speaking for Fiat, and I didn't realize Fiat owns 220 different companies. If you ever heard of John Case tractors, we all know John Deere. John Case is their competition, owned by Fiat. Maserati is owned by Fiat. Um, Obviously, Fiat, probably have about 100 different brands in their automobile division. But through all of that, you may just make some connections, and you get called to go to Italy every now and then. And since I love Italy, I don't mind taking that call. Social settings, strategic alliances, and social marketing. Teresa, you alluded to some strategic alliances. If in fact we can partner with people and we can both offer some of the same things, that's a good partnership and you're working well. I do some leadership development for education, um, for higher education, um, community community colleges and a couple of universities. I'm on the board of directors for a university. So I partner with a lady who does strategic planning, and between her strategic planning and my marketing and sales and leadership, we help community colleges grow. So we all do RFPs to answer strategic planning in that space. So you have to be very careful who you have your strategic alliances with. You want to make sure you have complementary um, skill sets so that you're working together and there's not a major challenge there. I put those there just so that you can do this. Your magic marketing mix. Where do you spend your time? This is a homework assignment. I want to know, what do you do? A lot of marketing to prior customers, new customers? Is it advocates? Is it referrals? Is it association market? My friend Ed Rigsby talks about uh, great ways of getting into association markets. I like association markets, but usually that's a one and done. So I want to do marketing where I can get a win and be able to penetrate deep and get more than just one win. I like to get, I really like to get 12 wins out of each new client, which means I'm doing something monthly or ongoing or helping them in some fashion. I would like to be part of the fabric of their organization when I get there. Please write this down. Relationship building is the fuel for greater revenue moving forward. Relationship building is the fuel for greater revenue moving forward. So as I go, this is your homework, so please mark that as, let me know what your mix of marketing should be. The 16 is the number of times you need to touch a customer. So, and I'm going to go back here for a second. That used to be how I would market. Once a month, I'd send out something, and once a quarter, which gave me my 16 hits. Today's environment, I ask for business less, but I give information more. So I went from 16 to 52. Once a week, I'm giving clients a tip on what I do and how they can engage with me. Making sense? Once a week. Um, we may touch on this again next week, but just some ways that I do that. My number one way, when I moved from San Antonio to Houston, I use the PEST concept to as a touching strategy for my clients. P stands for postcard. So I sent out a postcard. The Rainmaker's coming to Houston. The Rainmaker's coming. And then I would send that to several of by the way, I go to the business journal to find out how many of my potential clients are in the area. So I look for all the banks, all the accountants, and all the lawyers to send the postcards to. And then we'd follow it up with an email. An email may talk about several things that we do. And I'll give you an example of that with the next slide. Snail mail, I will put, so postcard may be week one, email may be week two, snail mail will be the third week, where I usually send out a book or something for them to have tangible. One of my messages is something like this. Congratulations for being a rainmaker in the accounting industry. I see that you're one of the top 20 in Houston. And by the way, I only do the ones that are based headquartered in Houston. So you're one of the top 20, and that means you have some incredible rainmaking strategies. I would like to set up an interview with you so I can see some of your strategies and use that in some of my articles or in my books in the future. And then I follow it up with a telephone conversation. I'd like to, and I would say, hey, I'm going to be in your area next Tuesday and Wednesday. Wanted to know if either of those days would be good for about 20 minutes of your time to go through an interview. And typically, they're excited to have the chance to talk to you. That opened up a lot of my doors here in Houston area. Questions as I pause? Whew. I'm going to give you guys another 10 minutes if you can hang in that long. Are we good? Were you
Do you
saying something,
still send
Liz?
out postcards?
I'm sorry?
So yes, do you still send out postcards and snail mail
I
still to
do.
this day?
I do. I have one of the slides that you're getting ready to see is how do you load up your Canon and what is it that you send to clients that they need to have? And I'll share with you what I sent. So,
Hold on, and is this for B2B or B to
B2B,
what
totally
is
a
it?
B2B thing.
Thank you.
If I'm talking to someone to do coaching, usually I can send out a brochure or make a contact, but that's someone I'd rather take 15, 20 minutes to talk to them rather than trying to um, have a mass sign up for a webinar or something like that. This this is a newsletter, a 16-page evergreen newsletter on creating your roadmap to succession. I talk about leadership in this magazine. I talk about rainmaking. I give them tips on rainmaking. And I talk about how should you be developing your leaders. So I'll send that out. And I say it's evergreen. So I make sure that it's something that I can send out time after time on however many times I want to do it. I wrote that before the pandemic. I probably need to reread it and rewrite it again to send it out again. Even though it's evergreen, there's things that have happened in our world that I need to reflect more in there. I see more people retiring and more people doing things in that fashion. So this is something I would send out as a touch. Um, in terms of the touch program, most people will send things out 4 or 5 times and then say, okay, that worked or didn't work. They get about 20%. I found out when I was raising things to 12 or 16 times, I was doing about 70 to 80% with my database. But recognizing that I need new clients and new add-ons to my database, I started sending things out 52 times. So once a week, they send things out. And I'll give you an example. So consider this, and it's appropriate for all of you. Based on your expertise, how about putting together a set of tips? I put together a set of 50 tips for rainmaking and another 50 tips for leadership. Then I took those tips. I did a couple of things with them. One of which, I'm not sure if you can see this. One of which was I made cards for them. So my business cards on the back of it have a tip on how they can do something on leadership or rainmaking. What does this one say? Rainmaking equals 80% listening, 20% talking. When you're talking, it should be 80% of the times asking questions and 20% bringing in solutions. And it's just a tip that goes there and says, if you're interested in more tips, give Ed a call. So if in fact you write down 50 tips for your subject matter, and again, be very specific. So in under rainmaking, I use 5 different categories. So I did 10 tips in each of those 5, made 50 work out real easy. Same under leadership. What are the leadership things that I do? What are 10 tips on each? So then my first product was my deck. Second product could have been a book. Another product is what I ended up doing, and that was a 3 to 5 minute video on each tip. So that every Tuesday, one of those videos goes out, and I can have my BA send it to LinkedIn, Facebook. They can place it on a YouTube. It's just or they can put it even on my website. So that every week there's people who can look and see something that Ed's doing to help you be a better rainmaker. Making sense, gang? Okay.
Yes, I'm a little confused with this slide though, the business development cycle, meeting with customers. So the introduction view, so the USP 1 to 5 is in front.
Excellent, Liz. That's because I haven't addressed it yet, so let me do it right
Oh,
now. When I talk about how many touches, I was talking about some people have trouble figuring out how am I going to touch people 16 times, 12 times, and what am I going to say? And I use this as an example. When we go to meet a customer, there's basically the introduction that we have, but then we should also have 5 areas that we can help them in. And we want to know this is our unique value proposition or unique selling position. And you want to have at least 5. And if you have 5 and you repeat it, that will show that's 12 touches right there. And for all of those, if you can do 5 tips or whatever, however many tips, it just gives you more content to talk to people about. When I send this to you, I will send you one of my videos that I do on one of my tip videos so that you have an idea of what tips I send out. 5 ways to differentiate your company from other companies. 1, the desired outcome. If you have great customer service, people appreciate that. Flexibility on how you deliver things. Your reputation. And are you in a well-defined target group? Now, the last thing I want to cover, I'm going to skip those. And let me show you what I skipped. If in fact we're nurturing our marketing, first of all, begin with the end in mind. Who are your dream clients? Those are the clients that you want to be sending things to so that they become more part of your network. And develop a long-term nurturing plan. Design your ideal marketing week, meaning how much time are you spending marketing? If you're doing it right, it really should be. Larry Winget used to have this comment. He goes, if you're really working as a professional speaker, your marketing shouldn't take more than 2 hours a day. And if you're taking 2 hours a day reaching out to people, you're going to be in the business for the long term. And don't go it alone. M to the third power is mastermind mentoring. Have a mastermind group or a group of people who can coach you in what you're sending out. Now, these are the 7 things that buyers are looking for when they're looking at you as a speaker or you as a consultant. What's your depth of expertise? Are you current on the content you're delivering? Do you Does the information you provide them give them immediate relevancy? Meaning it touches the base today. Are you easy to work with? Interaction and their experience. That experience that they go through makes a big difference on terms of how well they learn. Number 6, are we using real world experience and or sharing war stories or things that you've experienced over the years, and the authenticness and how approachable you are? Those are the things people are looking for. I say that when we go marketing, we have to load our cannon to send them things. And here they are. The first 6 are things that I have in my cannon. The last 2 are other things that I may have to send to people. So my one sheet, my bio or headshot. I have examples of each of these. I have to see what time it is. Let me go through the list. I will send a one sheet bio or headshot. I sent out a lot of people do one sheets. I like capability statements. What are some of the things I'm capable of doing and what have I done in the past? And I would give you an example of all of those. What are Ed's top programs? What are the top reasons people buy me or buy from you? Oops, backwards. Your speaker demo. I have to talk about this for a second. Does everyone have their demo? A speaker demo? As speakers, if you're a speaker, you have to have a demo. If you're more of a consultant, you don't have to have a demo. But if you want people to hire you to speak, you need your demo out there as well. In addition to your demo, some of my non-speaking clients said, if I want a good flavor of what you're going to do, it'd be nice to have a full 1 hour presentation. So I send out both of those. The last 2, a pre-conference questionnaire, is usually after I've been hired already. And if someone wants to know what my fee schedule is, I let them know that ahead of time. If you guys are interested in any of those, have them I have them so that I can pull them up for you to see them. You guys want to take time to see each one of those? I'm
Yes,
seeing
please.
heads nod. Okay, so let me stop here and go down our little hit list here. Let me start off with some of the one sheets that I do. And I said some of the one sheets. So can everyone see my one sheet now? And I said some. This is a one sheet for sales. I have a separate one sheet for leadership and another one sheet for change management or change. I call that my motivational one. So in this one, I have a cover of my rainmaking book. Stop and share with you one of the other ones on. Oh, I see there's some things in the chat there too. I'll have to come back to that. Another one. Oops. Just change the page there. Yeah, we'll do that one. This is one on change and from fighting the storm to dancing in the rain, dealing with the changes in your life. So it has the various things on my one sheet, and it literally is a 1 page synopsis of what I do and how I do it. Now let me share that in comparison with a capability statement. Hopefully, can everybody see that capability statement? It shows leadership, the leadership accelerator, and it will go through. These are some of the things that I will cover in that, some of the core competencies, some of our resources, examples of solutions provided in the past, leadership workshop options. So here's 13 modules on a leadership development program. Prior, this was for accounting and auditing. So these are all prior accounting or auditing clients that I've had in the last 12 months. And what else is on here? Then the last page covers some of the things that we've done and things that people may be looking for. It shows 3 of my books there and just shares that information. What I like about the capability statement, you're giving examples of how you've worked with other organizations and do various things. And what you want is examples of organizations that you've done work in the past. I used here the U.S. Postal Service, where we did 72,000 of the 72,000 postal workers. We did 72,000 of their 800,000 employees, and we just did supervisors and managers. For Arthur Anderson before they went out of business. We showed how they had a problem with their perfect storm with Enron, SEC, and Anderson. We helped them through that. I talked about Fiat, and there's something else I did. It's been a while since I read that. So you're just showing examples, and I'll send all of you a copy of the ones that I've shown you here. What else did I hear? Oh, these two, number 3 and number 4, things most people don't have, and this will actually answer Teresa's question about, no, it was Liz's question, about do I still send out postcards, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see. Stop share and share something that I sent out. I love this one, and you don't see a lot of people doing this. Give me 1 second. And that is the reason why people hire Ed. I'm not sure if you can see that. Oh, I haven't hit share yet. There we go. So I have top reasons why people hire me. And again, I'm going to send you all these things. Top reasons to hire Ed for the accounting industry: experience, longevity, predictable professionalism, published author, leadership distinction, industry specific monikers. And oh, this one I have my name under, but I also will do that and put the Speakers Bureau address and everything at the bottom. So I'm doing it on behalf of them. Let me share with you one of those. I know I do that for my pre-program questionnaire. So one of my favorite speakers bureaus was Betty Garrett out of the Dallas area for Garrett International. So at the very bottom of the thing, it would have her contact information, Garrett Speakers International, so that I'm representing her. And whenever somebody books me, I do this secondarily because it also talks about how do they want me to sell books, my audio in terms of learning materials and products. So it would have all of that in there. And I also ask them for key. I always ask to interview some people. So there's a place where they can put the people they want me to interview there as well. That is enough for one day. what time is it? 12:30 exactly. I am going to stop sharing that. I'm coming to you guys. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask?
I have one, Ed.
No
I
worries. You've
I
been
have
quiet today,
a
Carol.
I have a training catalog, and I've used it for a couple years with great success. It has a lot of the things you've talked about in there.
Huh?
I can certainly expand on the capability statement. Um, and there's a couple of other things. Would you be willing if I emailed that to you to have a look at it? There's two
I
newer
would, I
things
would,
that
I
need to
would be
go in
happy
there.
to do that, but let me answer that question. It was
Yes.
not one of the things I brought up, but I'm very careful not to do what you're about to say or what you're thinking of. I have a catalog that has about 25 different courses I do.
Hmm.
Every time I send out the entire catalog, it confuses the heck out of them. That's why I do the one that says the top for the accounting industry, these are the top 4 or 5 people are asking for help with right now. So I
Okay.
narrow it down to the 4 or 5 that I think that they need so that they're not looking at 25 saying, I don't know what to bring them in for.
Okay.
Okay. I'll send it to me. I'll be happy to look at it though. Um, and when I do it, getting ready to send one out. So let me grab one. When I say the top 4 or 5 programs, and if I'm mailing it to them, it's going to come in this fashion. So since there's only 2 of you, I'm going to take down my background so I can show this to you. So I was sent out, this is my top programs that I send out, and it just basically has my cover. It has my bio on the inside, and
Mhm.
then it'll have 4 programs and what their learning points are, what they will get, and how it's delivered. I have another one. This one doesn't do it. That may say that this is a 2 hour segment, 3 hour segment, or it can be delivered in a full day. Um, and then a place for them to put notes in the back. But that will go out, and it has my one sheet in the. It has a one sheet in the back of that. Yep, there we go. But when it goes out like that, typically it looks like it looks like a postcard, but they're not going to throw it away.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Liz, did you have a
That's
question?
so, but that's not your postcard per se, is it?
That is a postcard that I
That
sent
is your
out.
postcard.
The other thing that I do is a lot of times when I'm doing a keynote, I use a postcard. Is that upside down? It is. You use a card like that. It is a postcard. And usually inside there, I will have a mind map, a mind, sorry, a mind map of what I'm going to cover during that program. If I'm doing something real quick, I don't usually use big handouts when I do a keynote. But then I would have, in the back of it, it has a quote that I'm going to use during their program, and they can take it and let it just sit on their desk after the program.
More subliminal messages.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to jump off, but appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
My pleasure. And again, don't forget to send what you said you were going to send. I'll take a
Okay.
look at it.
Thank you. I
Liz, you're all
appreciate
good?
that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ed.
Okay. I'll reach
Great
out
week.
to all of you guys this week. Take
Have
care
a
now.
great week.
You too. Any travels this week, Liz?
No, I'm homebound for a little bit.
Cool. I'll reach out to you as well.
Alrighty. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks.